In a time where it seems every company is reviving old mascots, possibly due to fan outcry, possibly to turn a quick buck, nostalgia has gamers talking about and buying video games that have the same faces on the boxes as those that sat in their bedrooms during the 90s. We've had classic Sonic returning to form, recreating and remixing the formula that captured the hearts of so many in the Genesis days. Crash Bandicoot has received a top-notch remake treatment for all 3 original trilogy games, which has eventually led to a very similar do-over for the original Spyro PlayStation games. Even Bubsy is back, for some reason. I think you see where I'm going with this, so I've got to ask the question, where is Rayman? Rayman was released in 1995 and deserves its place among the true PlayStation 1 classics. Rayman was a 2D side-scrolling exploration game. You'd make your way through levels, puzzle solving, acquiring power-ups, collecting Electoons, and defeating enemies. The game is colourful, the music is upbeat, and the level design is varied and interesting. Despite actually being incredibly difficult at times, this is very clearly set out to be a kids game.
Rayman to the rescue!
Usually in a game series, changes are necessary to keep things fresh. Nobody would buy the same game 20 times with only minor changes in each instalment. That would be awful for the gaming industry and would send a terrible message to game developers. So in order to have a successful franchise, you need to upgrade what you've sold previously. You need things to gradually get bigger and try and better the game you've released beforehand, while still staying true to the style and tone of the series you're expanding on.
Sorry folks, this apparently can't last.
Not Rayman though. Following this fun, bright 2D side-scroller, we get... Oh, that's different. The opening cutscene is dark and spooky. It paints a very different world to the one you've explored 4 years previously. Suddenly we're playing in 3D, we've got a new supporting cast, the bouncy soundtrack has been replaced, and the Saturday morning cartoon villains have become world-destroying, prisoner-taking pirates. Although it took next to nothing from its predecessor, this game got very positive reviews and performed incredibly well. It's been re-released and tweaked for different platforms more times than I can count. If you've ever owned a piece of tech, chances are you can get a version of Rayman 2 on it. The third main entry in the Rayman series, Hoodlum Havoc, was released in 2003. Although in terms of gameplay, it was closer to Rayman 2, Hoodlum Havoc was much more colourful and light-hearted. Rayman got some cool costume changes with new power-ups, and the game taught us that it's pretty funny to get wasted. Pretty funny to get wasted. The game did fine, actually. Now we have to talk about the dark spot in Rayman's history. Instead of getting a 4th entry to the Rayman series, a concept for the main enemy type for the then upcoming game took off. We didn't get a Rayman sequel, we got a Rayman spin-off. We got... Rabbids. The Rayman Raving Rabbids game are mostly party games that will not go away. And they got so big for their boots that they dropped Rayman's name from the title after their 3rd game. And that was how Rayman died. Not with a bang, but a whimper. In 2011, prayers were finally answered. Rayman Origins was released. Officially slated as the 4th game in the Rayman series, the game was a soft reboot in many ways. The gameplay is back in 2D, the soundtrack is upbeat again, the screen is full of colours, and many of the locations and enemies are recreations of those found in the original games. And this game is a real treat. The game takes everything you thought was right about 2D platformers and somehow makes it even better. The controls are incredibly tight. There are no cheap deaths, every death gives you something to learn from for your next attempt. The music is incredible and does a perfect job of matching what you're seeing on screen. Listen to this track and tell me it isn't perfect for a murky level where you swim through the ocean's depths. You've got upgrades, you've got so many things to collect and character skins to unlock. The bosses are unique and memorable, and you get the chance to save the thickest fairies in the business! The game performed well enough to earn a sequel, and the sequel was Rayman Legends. This game took the formula that Origins had built and turned the dial to 11. Legends introduced a new character type, new game modes, new mechanics, and new collectibles, to name a few. The controls were perfected and the reviews were stellar. My favourite addition is the music levels. There's no greater feeling than nailing every jump, swing, punch and slide perfectly in time with Ram Jam's Black Betty. The game takes us further with the final set of levels, which puts you back in the previously run musical gauntlets with an 8-bit twist. The visuals become distorted, leaving you at the mercy of the musical cues to decipher what you need to do next. Although occasionally frustrating, it's a really special experience. Where Origins and Legends really shines is the co-op. 4-player co-op, although a little hectic and busy at times, was some of the most fun I've ever had in a video game. Dropping in and out is painless, and you can hinder your friends as much as you can help them, creating some really interesting dynamics in game. So if these games were so good, why aren't there any newer Rayman games lining store shelves? Origins was a great game, but Legends was fantastic. The developers improved on and perfected lots of the things that came before, to the point where I genuinely don't know where they'd go next. I feel like the two most recent games cover the style and gameplay the developers were going for very well, and it'd be difficult for them to make a third game that wouldn't just be a rehash of what came before. Legends added enough to the formula to be deserving of its own box, but unless there was a whole new world, set of mechanics and challenges in mind, a follow-up risks being a lazy remix of previous experiences. So if a follow-up to its most recent game isn't likely, could Rayman see a remaster of his earlier games like Crash and Spyro have gotten? The idea of an original Rayman trilogy remaster is one that unfortunately doesn't work for the series. Look at the original Crash Bandicoot games. 3 games that each tell its own story. They feature different environments, different level gimmicks, and different challenges between the 3 games. But they're consistent. Everything controls similarly, everything is rendered in 3D, and everything, whether Crash is on a beach, the jungle, a space station, or travelling to different periods in time, everything looks like it belongs in the same world. Rayman's first 2 games differ in art style, tone, and the actual amount of dimensions, that grouping them into a modern day trilogy simply doesn't make any sense. I don't think you'll see them remastered separately either. A simple run through for games on the original PlayStation were often a fraction of the length that we expect from a game now. And this is the reason that Crash and Spyro are both being sold as a trilogy. Game lengths that were acceptable 20 years ago don't hold up in today's market. The Rayman franchise has changed styles dramatically over the years. Other than the similar character design, a clip from the original Rayman looks nothing like a clip from its sequel. Rayman 2 and 3 look nothing like Origins or Legends. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, it just means that there isn't a particular style that truly belongs to the series. Even though I couldn't think of a sequel that wouldn't be a rehash of the last 2 games, I was personally hoping that this year Ubisoft would announce a follow-up to Legends, a game to complete the trilogy, or something completely new for Rayman and friends. Instead we got more of this. I don't think Rayman is gone forever. Far from it. I say this with a heavy heart, but now just isn't his time. I hope it doesn't take this long, but I'm sure within 5 years there'll be an announcement for a new Rayman game that once again throws everything before it out of the window and tells its own story in its own unique style. Until then, we can enjoy the encore that other, older franchises are enjoying and hope that Ubisoft take notice.
This is not a test. This is an emergency broadcast transmission. This is not a test. Please Please remain calm. Seek shelter immediately. The following areas are being evacuated: Cambridgeshire, Hertfordshire, and Northamptonshire. Do not disengage this message. The evacuation has begun. You will be taken to Exfil Point Bravo. There you will receive further